25 strong men lowered their eyes, but one nameless mountain man stood up. What happened next didn't just save a desperate woman, it changed an entire frontier town forever. Stay until the end, because this story proves that one act of courage can defeat the fear of 100 cowards. Before we begin, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Every like helps us share more heartwarming Wild West stories where kindness, courage, and love always triumph over evil. The Black Creek Saloon had never been quieter. Lanterns flickered against rough wooden walls while the smell of whiskey and dust filled the air. Nearly 25 men occupied the tables: ranchers, gamblers, cowhands, merchants, and travelers. Every one of them heard the frightened voice that suddenly broke the silence. "Please, somebody help me." And no one moved. The young woman, no older than 26, struggled to pull herself free as Wade Granger, the most feared outlaw in 3 counties, gripped her wrist. Her dark dress was torn, her face streaked with tears, yet she refused to surrender. "You belong where I say you belong," Wade growled. She pulled away. "I belong to no one." The outlaw laughed loudly, certain nobody would challenge him. Around the room, men stared into their drinks. Some remembered Wade's gang-burning ranches. Others remembered neighbors who disappeared after standing against him. Fear chained every chair to the floor. The woman looked around one last time. "Please," still nothing. Near the back wall sat a broad-shouldered stranger wearing a weathered buckskin coat. Snow dust clung to his boots. A worn rifle leaned beside his chair untouched. Nobody knew his name. Some called him the Mountain Man. Others had never seen him before. He quietly finished his coffee. Then he stood. The chair scraped across the floor. Every head turned. Wade sneered. "You got something to say?" The stranger calmly answered. "Let her go." The outlaw laughed. "You know who I am?" "No." "And you don't care?" "No." Silence returned. The Mountain Man stepped forward, his steady eyes never leaving the frightened woman. "You asked for help," he said softly. "I'm here." For the first time that evening, hope appeared in her eyes. Wade shoved her aside and stepped toward the stranger. "You planning to die today?" The Mountain Man removed his hat. "I was planning to eat supper." A few nervous chuckles escaped the crowd before dying instantly. Everyone knew violence was seconds away. But the stranger showed no anger, only calm, only courage, only the quiet confidence of a man who had faced harsher winters than any outlaw. Outside, cold wind rattled the saloon windows. Inside, 25 silent witnesses waited to see whether goodness could survive another day in the Wild West. None of them realized they were about to witness something far greater than a fight. They were about to witness character, and character cannot be bought, frightened, or broken. The outlaw's fist flew without warning, but the Mountain Man stepped aside with the calm precision of someone who had spent half his life surviving grizzly bears, mountain storms, and dangerous trails. Wade stumbled forward, crashing into a table that splintered beneath his weight. Glass shattered across the floor, and the frightened woman hurried to the far side of the saloon. The 25 men watched in stunned silence. They had expected the stranger to fall within seconds. Instead, he stood perfectly still, his breathing steady, his hands lowered, giving the outlaw every chance to walk away. "Leave?" the Mountain Man said quietly. "Nobody else needs to get hurt tonight." Wade wiped blood from his lip and laughed bitterly. "You think you're better than me?" The stranger shook his head. "No, I simply choose not to become you." Those words struck harder than any punch. Rage consumed the outlaw. He reached for the revolver hanging from his belt, and the entire saloon gasped. Mothers outside pulled their children indoors as men near the windows expected gunfire at any second. But before Wade could draw, the Mountain Man moved with incredible speed. He seized the outlaw's wrist, twisted the revolver harmlessly into the floor, and kicked it beneath the bar. The room erupted with shock, not because of the fight, but because the stranger never once tried to kill his enemy. He fought only to stop him. Wade charged again, throwing wild punches fueled by pride instead of skill. The Mountain Man blocked every blow before delivering one powerful strike that sent the outlaw crashing through the saloon doors into the dusty street. Silence followed. The stranger slowly walked outside while the entire town gathered around. Wade struggled to his feet, reaching for a hidden knife inside his boot. Before he could attack, several townsmen finally stepped forward. One rancher grabbed the outlaw's arm. Another kicked the knife away. A blacksmith stood beside them. Soon 5, then 10, then nearly every man who had remained silent inside the saloon joined together. Fear had ruled them for years, but courage is contagious. One brave soul had reminded them who they were meant to be. Wade looked around and realized his greatest weapon had never been his fists or his gun. It had been everyone else's silence. Without it, he was only another bully standing alone. The sheriff finally pushed through the crowd with 2 deputies. "What's happening here?" he demanded. The young woman stepped forward, her voice no longer trembling. "This man saved my life." She pointed toward the mountain man. The sheriff turned to thank him, but the stranger simply picked up his weathered hat. "She saved herself," he replied. "She had the courage to ask for help. I only answered." The sheriff nodded with deep respect. Wade Granger was handcuffed and led away as the townspeople watched the outlaw disappear forever down the dusty street. Many lowered their heads in shame, remembering how they had stayed seated while one innocent woman begged for mercy. The mountain man blamed none of them. Instead, he quietly began repairing the broken saloon chairs he had accidentally damaged during the fight. The woman stared at him in disbelief. "After everything that's happened, you're fixing their furniture." The stranger smiled faintly. "Kindness doesn't end when the danger does." Those simple words planted something new inside every heart watching that evening, a belief that true strength is measured not by how hard a man can fight, but by how faithfully he chooses to do good when evil seems easier. By sunrise, Black Creek no longer felt like the same town. The dusty streets that had once echoed with fear were now filled with quiet conversations about the nameless mountain man. Shopkeepers reopened their doors without looking over their shoulders. Children laughed as they chased one another across the boardwalk, and for the first time in years, the townspeople believed the grip of fear had finally been broken. Yet the man responsible for it all asked for no praise. Before dawn, he had already repaired the broken saloon furniture, chopped a stack of firewood for the elderly widow who owned the place, and saddled his horse without expecting so much as a thank you. To him, doing what was right had never been about recognition. It was simply the only way he knew how to live. As he prepared to leave town, the young woman he had rescued hurried toward him, carrying a small cloth bundle. Her eyes were no longer filled with terror, but with quiet confidence. "You're leaving?" she asked softly. The mountain man smiled. "There's always another trail." She handed him the bundle. Inside were fresh biscuits, dried meat, and a warm wool scarf she had sewn through the night. "I don't have money to repay you," she whispered, "but I wanted you to know your kindness gave me back more than my life. It gave me back my courage." The mountain man gently closed her hands around the gift instead. "Keep it," he said. "You'll meet someone else who needs hope one day. Give it to them." Tears filled her eyes as she understood that true generosity expected nothing in return. Just then, the sheriff, followed by nearly the entire town, stepped into the street. The ranchers removed their hats. The blacksmith lowered his hammer. Even the old bartender stood with watery eyes. One by one, the 25 men who had remained silent inside the saloon walked toward the mountain man. Their leader spoke first. "Yesterday we failed her, and we failed ourselves. You reminded us that courage belongs to ordinary people who simply choose to stand." Another man added, "We can't change yesterday, but we can change who we become tomorrow." The mountain man nodded. "That's all any person can do." The sheriff offered him a deputy's badge. "A man like you belongs here." The stranger looked at the badge, then slowly pushed it back into the sheriff's hand. "This town doesn't need another lawman," he replied. "It needs neighbors willing to protect each other." Those words settled deeply into every heart. The mountain man climbed into his saddle, tipped his worn hat, and rode toward the distant mountains without ever giving his name. The rescued young woman watched until he disappeared beyond the hills, realizing some heroes leave behind no monuments, only changed lives. In the months that followed, Black Creek became known as the town where people no longer looked away. When strangers needed food, someone shared a meal. When widows struggled, fences were repaired together. When bullies arrived, they found an entire town standing shoulder to shoulder instead of 25 silent men. The nameless mountain man was never seen there again, but his greatest gift had never been his strength. It was the courage he awakened in others, and so the people of Black Creek learned a lesson that echoed across the Wild West. Evil grows when good people remain silent, but one act of kindness and courage can inspire an entire community to stand for what is right. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who still believes that kindness is stronger than fear. Remember, true heroes are not remembered because they sought glory, but because they chose to do good when everyone else chose to look away.